This year, Star Trek First Contact turns 30. This is a special Trek Tuesday that I put together from the original roundtable in Beverly Hills. This is exploring humanity through sci-fi. This continues my mission to better understand ourselves through sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and comics as our mode of exploration. Truth be told, sadly, I lost the original special that I did on First Contact that aired on New York radio. However, I was able to find bits and pieces, and I put this together. Let's start with Patrick Stewart and how he admired how Jonathan Frakes handled the director's duties, this from 1996 Roundtables.
Although one of the charms of this movie is what a wonderfully relaxed and easygoing and cheerful and laid-back performance Jonathan gives in this movie. It's astonishing how comfortable he seems to be. But I have never been able to understand how Mel and Ken Branagh and these people direct themselves in major roles. I don't know how it's possible. Whenever I directed episodes that I had anything to do in, I always felt I couldn't act. I felt like a beginner when the acting came about. So no, I wouldn't want to direct something with myself, but I'm actively looking for projects that would be more appropriate to the kind of thing I want to direct to do. It is, the best job in the world, directing movies.
More on Star Trek First Contact at 30 in a moment. Although part of the Star Trek Nemesis junket, I do have to confess, Rick Berman, who did not get enough credit for running Star Trek from Next Generation to Enterprise, talked about Gene Roddenberry's influence.
In everything we do, whether it's the television series or the movies, we've just gotten used to this over the years. We always kind of have Gene Roddenberry hovering somewhere in the room, and whenever we do things, we tend to respect what we would like to think would be his opinion on things.
This is from 1996 and Alice Krige on becoming the Borg Queen for the first time.
There's a line in the script that describes her when you first encounter her as being hauntingly beautiful. And I had no idea that I was going to wear prosthetics. In the script, there was a line that said, "The Borg Queen wears no prosthetics. She is, however, bald." And I thought, cool, I could be bald. So they called me in. I went off to do something in Toronto, and I got word in Toronto that the moment I got back, I had to have a live mask done. And I thought, for what? And I went in there, and they did the mask. And I said, "What's it for?" And they said, "Your prosthetics." And I said, "I'm going to be wearing," and they said, "Yes, and there's this sculpture of it up in the makeup department if you want to see." And I was, first of all, very nervous because I have once before worn prosthetics and old age makeup. I wore prosthetics in a picture called Sleepwalkers, but that was kind of different because by the time I was the creature, I was completely creature. I wasn't even meant to resemble a human being. But this old age makeup that I had worn once was inches of rubber. And I felt like a gecko. I didn't feel like a person at all. And it's very difficult to work through half an inch of foam rubber. And I went up and I looked at what Scott had created. And I was fascinated. I mean, I hate to think what he dreams about at night. He should have arrived at that. But ultimately, it was a tool that I really found very, very helpful because I wanted her to be at once attractive and repulsive and disturbing, and yet for you not to want to stop looking at her. And they really did that.
Brent Spiner on Data's makeup.
It stayed exactly the same, but the only difference, the worst part of the makeup has always been the contact lenses, always. The makeup adds to that difficulty because it gets in my eyes and smears over the lenses, and by the middle of the day I can't see anything anymore. The lenses are prescription lenses, but they're not my prescription, so it makes things very difficult. In this film I had a particularly difficult time with the lenses. I don't know why. I'm one of these people who I'm lucky in that at my advanced age I can still read without glasses. I do need them for distance, but I don't to read. I was finding myself in the morning really having a hard time reading, and I knew it was only in the morning. By the end of the day I could read fine. And so I went to an ophthalmologist. He said what's happened and it happened on this film, was that my corneas, which you're supposed to be smooth, were wavy. And so I said to him, well, would you be willing to testify to that in court? And no, I'm kidding, I didn't really. But he said it will take about a year for them to smooth out again, and they will repair themselves. But that's the hardest part, is the contacts.
There's much more on Star Trek First Contact at 30 in just a moment. The guest stars included James Cromwell as Ephraim Cochrane.
I liked his journey. I liked where he came from and where he finally wound up. The fact that he he managed to succeed in spite of his fear. I like the fact that through the character, I could sort of send up Star Trek, the beginning of Star Trek. That it begins humbly, that we're human, that these superhuman human beings who walk around totally in control, manipulating all these machines, are actually, they still put on their pants one leg at a time, just like the rest of us. And that heroes are, always have feet of clay. That's the thing about heroes, that we're just human beings. It's just hero worship is just a point of view.
Playing Lily Sloan was Alfre Woodard.
I remember picking up the script, and within those first 3 pages, when that whole thing with his eye happens, and it was so well written that I got that, because I don't really get a lot. I have to read the script out loud sometimes, or I miss certain things when I'm reading a script. But I got it, and I was like, ooh, shoot, ooh, like that. And then once I met Lily and Zephyr, I went, yeah, because they said, read and pay attention to the role of Lily as you read. And I was like, okay, who's Lily? And you're always thinking, oh gosh, she's probably going to be like, weeping or doing something. And it's like, she was so kick-ass. I'm like, yeah. And the fact that, the great mind, the scientist, was just a lush and a womanizer. And went, and he loves rock music. It was so cool. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but at the end they wanted to, they didn't want to pay the money for it, frankly, but when the Vulcans come, was the thing that he starts to play is Break On Through to the Other Side. We fought so hard to get that song, but...
During the 1996 junket, LeVar Burton talked about a unique relationship between Data and Geordi LaForge.
The audition scene for the character of Geordi was a Geordi Data scene, and they actually had written something that we never really explored in the series, but I always thought was kind of cool, that Geordi and Data became friends. They recognized immediately in each other that they both saw the world in the same way. Geordi through his prosthetic eyes and Data with his positronic brain, so they actually formed a team in that scene that Gene had written for the audition, and they called themselves the Perceivers because of their unique perception. And we never used that in the series, but it certainly was the basis for the way they bonded. As life happens, when I got married 4 years ago, Brent was my best man.
In the same junket, Michael Dorn reflected on how he crafted the character of Worf.
One of the things that I actually did when I got the job was that I vowed to change the perception of Klingons, and although we didn't have major discussions about it, Gene allowed me to create the Worf character any way I wanted to, and so what I did was I took we had to do a different voice, number one, because the voice was too human-like, originally, although deep. And so I just took it and made it English, made him really eloquent, instead of saying we can't, I say we cannot, and make it very stilted and very, very eloquent. So, and also the same with the fighting sequences. Originally it was like screaming and yelling and hitting with 2 hands and, just really kind of wild stuff. And I went to one of the special effects supervisors on our show who was a martial arts expert. And I said, look, I want to change this all around. Let's do something that is violent, but almost like martial arts like, So every move is choreographed, and it is every. If you make a move, you're getting prepared for the next move, and so it looks real, like a dance, except it can rip your throat out, or something. And so that was my whole point, is to change the Klingons so they weren't just these wild guys, and made them a little different.
And lastly, just a few years ago, Jonathan Frakes and I reflected on Star Trek First Contact. I've actually covered the roundtables for First Contact and Insurrection.
No kidding.
And you came in the room. You were the last one for First Contact, and you said, "How did we do?" And I was the only one that said, "I think you got a hit on your hands."
Oh, what a great movie that was.
That was fantastic. And you know what the impact of that movie was? I'm a huge Green Bay Packer fan. They were playing the Panthers for the championship game. Somebody had a banner at Lambeau Field that said, "Resistance is futile."
Oh, fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I went to see, we had hosted a kind of I guess it was the 25th anniversary of it this year or last year.
Yeah.
Alfre came, and a bunch of people from the cast came, and John Knoll came from ILM, and Herman Zimmerman, the designer, and Berman. And it was such a great reunion of the filmmakers part of it. And because the script was bulletproof. I mean, it had everything. And then the casting of Alfre and James Cromwell, who had just come off Babe. Alice. Yeah, it was really something.
Yeah, I remember walking into this. These were the days where Paramount would fly you places. They put us up at the Four Seasons. We went to see it in Paramount Studios and an amazing screening room.
Yes.
And so that was fun. Another thing on Insurrection, I was talking to F. Murray Abraham, and he was telling me the story that he was at the end when Picard and the Sona were fighting each other. He was firing his gun, and then you said you yelled "cut," and he was like, "What's going on?" Because he kept going.
Yeah.
He was a great interview too.
Yeah, I bet he is. He's not afraid to talk.
No, not at all.
I had him on Orville as well. He's a fabulous actor.
I believe, as many fans do, that this is the finest of the Next Generation movies. Had a great villain, the Borg, action, including a battle set on the hull of the Enterprise, although it was the lower hull. And there was Borg vision, and Jonathan Frakes establishing a directing career. Great movie, revisit it on Paramount+. Sci-Fi Talk Plus is my premium podcast and video channel. One of the features this summer is a look at the summer movies with videos, with podcast and companion video. This includes sit-down interviews. There's also clips on the video when available, including red carpet interviews from around the world. You can sign up now for only $1.99 a month for commercial-free podcasts and videos. Today, click on the link in the show notes to get started. I'm Tony Tellado.